Hi, thanks for tuning in to Eight Limbs. I'm your host, Drayton Michaels. Today we have a very special guest. We have Aly DelaCoeur from Why Does My Dog, a fantastic website and YouTube channel that helps pet owners learn about how to train their dogs in a positive way. Aly, welcome to Eight Limbs. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course, of course. So let's jump right in and just let us all know what was your inspiration to start training dogs.
I was inspired to train dogs when I got hold of a death row dog, Duke. He was very misbehaved, and very early on I found out that it wasn't that he was misbehaving and that he was a bad dog. It just, he didn't have any direction in how to be, quote unquote, a good dog. And so I decided to take it upon myself to try to train him and help him understand how to live in a human world. And when I was training my own dog, I found that there was a lot of other people who were having same concerns or having the same kind of looking for ways to help their dogs live better in, our human world. And that's really what kind of inspired me to be a dog trainer.
Nice. Very good. Yeah, I think a lot of us start that way. We get a dog or we start volunteering with a dog and we say, what can I do to make this dog's life a little bit more, safe and pleasurable? So when you did start training dogs, per our conversations that we've had in the past, you told me that you started out using some pretty harsh methods. And what was the catalyst for you to stop using those approaches?
That's definitely true. When I first started training my dog Duke, I had no clue about training. I had no clue about dogs, and I got this, 130-pound dog who was very reactive, very aggressive. And so, of course, I turned to the very first thing that I found, which was TV stations and trainers that were on there. And one day, I still remember that moment with my dog, who I loved my dog. I mean, he was the best thing that happened in my life. And I was walking my dog, and he started reacting on the leash. He had his prong collar on, and he was just really just going crazy at a dog that he saw across the street. And I copied a training technique that was advised on this particular TV show, where you, quote unquote, tap or kick the dog in the stomach to get his attention back to you, redirected your attention. And in that moment when I did that, and I didn't kick the dog, I tapped him, my dog turned around, redirected his aggression onto my foot and bit me pretty badly. I was bleeding. I was having a hard time walking home. And in that moment, his eyes got really big, his ears got back, and my eyes got really big. And it was almost, we had this moment between the two of us. It's like, wait, this is not the relationship that he wants to have with me. And that is not the relationship that I want to have with my dog. I did not want my dog being hurt or being afraid while we're on a walk. I loved my dog, and it just did not seem right to me. So as soon as we got home, because I did not get mad at my dog at all for biting me, you know what, I deserve getting bit by my dog. So as soon as we got home, I started Googling like crazy. I was like, there's got to be other ways to do this. And that's when I kind of run into positive reinforcement training, counter conditioning techniques. And as soon as I started doing that with my dog, I just realized our relationship was so much stronger. And he became such a wonderful dog to the point where no one could recognize him. They thought I had a different dog. He was no longer aggressive. I think that was the moment, though, when I realized it's like, that's not the relationship I want with my dog. It's not the correct relationship to have with your dog.
Yeah, exactly. And, I give you a lot of credit for seeking out an alternative way. Sadly, a lot of people get stuck in using aversives and they blame the dog and, they ramp it up and get a shock collar. So a lot of credit goes to you for realizing that. And Duke's very lucky that, you did come around and you were able to help him out. Now, your website and your YouTube channel uses short videos to educate people. When did you decide to start filming and releasing videos to help educate people?
Well, the reason we started doing that is because I was a dog trainer in Seattle. And, well, as you know, it's kind of expensive to get a dog trainer to come and train your dog. And what I was finding is I would go into these situations with these dogs, and the people, I could tell them all the techniques that I can, do this and do that. But ultimately, people were not understanding the dog's behavior. They were confused. They have seen all of this information on TV, on social media, on the internet, and they were misinterpreting the dog's behavior incorrectly. And they already came on board with kind of preconceived notions of what should happen and what they should do. And almost like they already had ideas of what they wanted me to tell them. So ultimately, I realized I need to get kind of to the bottom of it, to where are people getting information before they even hire or make the decision to hire a dog trainer. And because so many people get their information from watching videos, going online and Googling things, we created whydoesmydog.com to hopefully be the first source of dog information. Like, this is what really is going on in the dog's mind. These are the training methods that you should be looking for when hiring a dog trainer. This is what you should know about living with your dog. I'm hoping that through this website and through these videos, we can get people before, they form those misconceptions about my dog is being dominant, my dog is being stubborn, my dog is doing this out of spite to me. Like, if we can correct them before they kind of, memorize those thoughts and live those thoughts of their dog, then hopefully we can change the way they're viewing dog training and finding dog trainers to help their dog with particular issues.
Well, that's great. I mean, a lot of people release videos because they want to either make money from the adverts or, they want to show off stuff. Myself included, I started to release educational videos because of the exact same reason. I just wanted to start start a blowback to all the misinformation and give people, videos on how to do this with a positive approach. So I give you a lot of credit, and it's great that you're making these short films for people so that they do have this information readily available. Now, speaking of filming, recently you've gone around the country and interviewed some awesome people in regards to pit bulls and BSL. I was one of them. I really appreciate you coming out here to film me for your short films that you're releasing on YouTube. Why did you decide to start focusing on the pit bull prejudice issue and the BSL issue?
I think even myself as a dog behaviorist and a dog trainer, I don't think I fully understood how much stigma there is on pit bulls right now. I knew there was issues. I knew people didn't like them. But then when I got my puppy, my pit bull puppy Truffle, he's 1 year old, and seeing the fear in people's faces, not being able to find a doggy daycare to take him to because he's a pit bull, not being able to go to places without people judging us, getting kicked out of like dog parks because I have a pit bull. That's when I realized I was like, you know what? I think there's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more that I need to know as a pit bull owner. And instead of, turning my eyes again to just like kind of Googling and finding all this information, I figured I'm going to go to the source of experts in this field. They're going to be able to tell me how to be a better, pit bull owner, how to be a better pit bull owner advocate, how to be an advocate for against, breed-specific legislature. And going back to our website, we want to help educate other people as well. So I saw this, prejudice, this misunderstanding, this horrible information about these wonderful, wonderful dogs. And we wanted to use our website, our YouTube channel, our following as a way to kind of help promote a better image and a better understanding of these dogs. And, ultimately, it's not just the pit bulls. We keep picking a different breed to pick on. We keep picking on these poor dogs, and we keep blaming these dogs. So I'm really hoping that through these interviews that I did with you and Pinups for Pit Bulls and the Women's Humane Society, is that I'm hoping that we can educate people about why dogs do things that they do, so that way we never have to worry about this breed-specific legislature ever again, hopefully.
I agree. And again, one of the reasons why I resonated with you when we spoke prior to filming was you're pretty much doing a lot of the things with the same inspiration or motivation that I was when I first got a pit bull dog. A friend of mine who was a big 300-pound football player nearly jumped back 100 feet when he saw me with the dog, and I couldn't understand why, because I only knew Mojo to be this awesome dog, and I never was afraid of him and didn't expect people to have that kind of reaction. And I think a lot of it has to do with culture and where people decide to get their information. I think that's one of the themes of our conversation today is, where are you getting your information, and is it vetted properly? And that goes back to my interview with Dr. Karen Overall when we talked about pit bulls and positive training. Where are people getting vetted information? And I think the key there is, is this information coming through vetted sources based in science, based in legitimate understanding of dog behavior? So again, it's great you're doing it. I think, we can't have enough legit information with the right people representing these dogs because, and I don't know if you found this to be the case, but when you start to educate people about pit bulls, it opens the door for them to just understand dogs in general a lot more.
I completely agree with that statement. I think if we can, it's taking this horrible situation that's happening to this one particular breed and educating people about everything that's going on with them will open up more doors for other dogs, for people to change how they view their, even if it's just a foofy little dog, it's, you have to change how you treat them. You have to look at it at a different way through human and dog behavior, like you say, and giving them more information, different sources of information. So it's our videos, it's your podcast, your videos, your training methods, giving them access to those experts in the field. So then it's not just, somebody woke up one day and decided to make videos about pit bulls. It's like, no, these are legitimate people in the field. They know what they're talking about, and they're the source for the information. And giving everybody, access to you personally, for instance, I'm hoping that that's going to just really help these poor misunderstood dogs.
Yeah, well, I do everything I can every day, all day. I've been pretty much, a full-time advocate and trainer since 2007, because sadly there is prejudice. And, like you say, even if it's a little, 10-pound dog, people can still view the dog's behavior incorrectly and do harsh things. And that little 10-pound dog now has extra stress, and they're being viewed incorrectly. They're being labeled. So yeah, again, legit info. We need to just get it out, and whoever wants to help get it out, I'm all there for them to help them get it out. Since you've been training dogs professionally, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered?
I think that my biggest challenge that I encounter is what's already been drilled into people's heads over the last, 20 years of this dominant alpha dog series. It's so hard to explain to people that is not the way that you want to view your dogs. And, they look at, if so-and-so has a TV show, then that must mean that they know what they're talking about. It's like, no. I'm trying to explain to people that animal behavior science is constantly evolving. We have, better research tools. We have better ways to do this particular research. We don't have to, capture animals anymore. We can actually look at them in their, real life situations. And by being able to do that, we can understand animal behavior so much better. And so trying to tell people that, that's how people looked at it before because they did not know better. But we know better now, so it's time to change the way we deal with our dogs. We can't be stuck in this old way of thinking, and trying to help them kind of get over this idea of but they're famous. They're on TV. They have websites, all this stuff. It's like, yeah, that's great and dandy, but helping people understand that, looking for people who have some kind of education or they know what they're talking about. They've done research in animal behavior sciences versus just coming up with these theories that then people do on their dogs, and they're horrible for your relationship with the dog. So honestly, I think that's my biggest battle that I fight with every single day. I mean, just last night, somebody came over with a pit bull puppy, and his first thing, because I was trying to explain to the owners about, this is what you need to do with the dog. Somebody else was there who just happened to be a trainer. He's going, no, you got to just put a electric collar on the dog and it will stop him. And trying to explain to the people that it's like, those tools do so much harm to your dog and to your dog's relationship. And that particular person has two kids under the age of 6 at home living with a dog, and you're going to be shocking your dog. It's just, that's what I struggle with the most is the misinformation, the uneducation that people have drilled into their head that we need to try to undrill, try to carve off of it, and try to educate them in what really is happening in animal behavior science right now.
Yeah, and I think that one of the most important things is to bring it back to people with legitimate sources, which I've sent you these studies. I think I've sent you both of them about how they have determined that dogs have the cognition of a 3-year-old child, basically. And regardless of whether the dog is going for 3 walks a day and playing in the backyard and going to daycare, or the dog's sniffing out bombs at the airport. Bottom line is that dogs have the cognition when they reach social maturity of a 3-year-old child. Yes, they can bite, and some dogs can bite worse than others and so forth. But, it's I think it's every legitimate pet dog trainer's challenge, the one you speak of, which is battling through the distortion. I often tell people, stay off the internet, just email me. I can give you the sources if you want them. I can give you the safe way to do this. And I think we live in a society where we want solutions right away. And because it is a consumer-driven profession, people are like, well, I want to pay, this much money and get my dog trained. And I always have to explain to people that there's no guarantee in behavior. I can't predict if you're going to shut the door and the dog won't get out. I can't predict if you're going to say, leave it, as opposed to, hey, cut it out. I can give you the plan, but I think ultimately what it comes back to is, for me and other, people that I've learned from, is that you got to get people to focus on changing their behavior, because they can do that. They can't change dog behavior unless they change their behavior. And and I think most people realize that. I mean, regardless of where you fall on the training spectrum, all dog trainers agree that humans have to do something differently. What we're saying, the positive trainers, legitimate trainers, we're saying, yes, change your behavior and have it be a positive change. I was just speaking with a woman on the phone before we started our interview, and I said, when your dog growls at your son should get really happy and toss food. And she goes, really? And I explained to her about stress hormones and how if the dog is fearful and they're growling and you challenge them, sure, they might back down, but what if they don't? What if they bite? What if they land 25 bites in 4 seconds? It is possible. So I think, for me, I frame it in, stark, cold reality for people. And I say, here's what's going on in your dog's brain. Here's what they could potentially do. Here's how you handle it in a positive way. And the woman was like, oh, okay. And she totally got it. I said, well, if you're upset and you're coming at me and I say, it's okay, it's all good. Look, that problem has been solved and I can show you it's okay. And then I just, explain to her that, in time, the dog's going to go, oh, wow, well, growling is a whole lot of energy. If I just approach, they're going to give me a treat too, or be really nice to me. So I think, just getting people to understand that they have to change their behavior. There's a lot of stuff in dog behavior training that we do, us legitimate trainers, that seems counterintuitive. It just doesn't, if somebody comes at you, your response might be to come back at them. And with dogs, that you need to do the opposite. Which leads me to my next question. You have a background in child education, and I'm just curious to know how that's helped you with training dogs and consulting people.
Yeah, I was actually an after-school teacher from kindergarten up to 5th grade, and then I worked a little bit with 8th graders. And going back to my story with my dog Duke and using aversives with him, one of the things that kind of was an aha moment with me was when I teach and work with children, I'm not going to punish them for making a mistake. I'm not going to, dominate them with my adultness, for the lack of a better word. Instead, when we work with kids, we try to help them make decisions. We try to show them choices that they have, and we try to encourage them to make the correct choices. And if they make a mistake, we correct it in a way that's not, going to leave the poor child scarred for the rest of life, fearing of making mistakes. It's, you try to encourage them to choose the correct thing. You reward them. We gave them stickers, gold stars. It's like, okay, if you do this correctly, you get 5 extra minutes of recess this day. And they didn't understand why we weren't doing this for our dogs, because I viewed my dogs as my family members. And I would have never treated, my nieces and nephews, for instance, the way that we're expected to treat our dogs. And it just didn't make any sense to me. So as part of my kind of training with Duke, I was like, you know what, let me try this weird, like, what if I reward him every time that he does even the smallest thing correct? And this was before I found out about positive reinforcement training. So when we went for walks, I would just give him treats and cookies and praise like crazy when we saw another dog. And because that's what I would do with children. If a child is having a hard time, for instance, doing algebra problems, this is like 8th grade level, not, I'm not going to sit there and punish them every single time they make a mistake. Instead, I'm going to encourage them. Okay, you know what? You did this first step correctly. Good job. Here's a gold sticker. Then let's go on to the next step. Now let's increase the difficulty a little bit more. And every single time you get even the slightest smidge, like, you know what? You put that pen to the paper. Good job, depending on the child. And I didn't see why we couldn't do that with dogs. If your dog just glances at another dog, treat. And then next, let's ask him to do a little bit more. We're going to glance at the dog for a little bit longer. And slowly increase his tolerance of that dog, the same way kind of how we teach mathematics. It's, we're not going to jump in right into trigonometry, and if you can't do it, I'm going to, pinch your neck and roll you over. It's no, let me start you at basics, let's count. And that's the same thing with dogs. And I think my education in working with children definitely helped me kind of be able to break down all of these steps for my personal dogs. And I wanted to help people understand that you can't just throw your dog in and expect him to know everything. It's like, no, you have to change so much about how you behave in front of that dog, how, what steps are you looking for? How are you motivating that dog to do the correct thing? What are you rewarding the dog? Because like with kids and people, it's like, they're not going to do something just because they're going to, just because they want to do it. There's rewards that happen behind it. There's motivation that happens behind it. And if we do this with our children, and we love our dogs supposedly as our kids, a lot of people joke that, my dogs are my kids. Like, why don't we treat them then like we treat children or our beloved family members? Why do we treat them like some subordinate in the army? Like, that's no way to deal with your dog. And that's not how we are with children, I guess, unless you go to military school. But hardly any of us went to military school.
Right. And they've even had a lot of studies done, because the one thing the military does is they study soldiers, and they've found that those really harsh hazing, degrading approaches don't make for better soldiers in battle or in general. So I think you're absolutely right, and you're on the right path. Aly DelaCoeur from Why Does My Dog? You are a fantastic addition to the training world and the advocacy world. We are so fortunate to have you out here. Everybody, please, listening, check out Why Does My Dog, both on YouTube and whydoesmydog.com, correct?
Yes, that's
All
correct.
right, awesome. Thank you so much for speaking with us today on 8 Limbs. I'm your host, Drayton Michaels, and we've been talking with the fabulous Aly DelaCoeur from Why Does My Dog? Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.